The 12-team college football playoff bracket is officially locked and loaded, and let me tell you the few things that stand out to me and kind of what the committee did. Number one, Clemson being conference champions didn't do them any favors because the committee pretty much was like, oh, well, you got Texas first round. Not favorable. Oregon being undefeated and being ranked number one somehow worked against them because they have the hardest path to the national championship. Georgia has the easiest path to the national championship, and teams like Ohio State and Boise State thought they had the good end of the stick, but really they got the bad end of the stick. Now we need to talk about Alabama SMU and why SMU got that last spot in the college football playoff over Alabama. You don't have to agree with what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. Alabama's not the victim here. Let's not start that narrative that the committee has it out for Alabama. That is not true. Alabama has 3 losses. Do I believe the committee kept them out because 2 of those losses were bad? Yes, that is also kind of what they stated, the AD, when explaining what the committee was looking at. Those 3 losses came in the SEC conference, okay? Alabama had no business losing to Vanderbilt. They let the Tennessee loss go, and then they lost very badly to Oklahoma. That was the problem there. You don't lose to Oklahoma, they might have let it go. You don't lose to Vanderbilt, might have let it go. It's a different scenario then. Alabama put themselves in this position. The AD also said that they were impressed that SMU lost to Clemson by 3, that they made a comeback. So if that is what they are saying, that means that they went on a recent body of work. Well, Alabama, you lost to Oklahoma 24-3. Was it really a close game? You didn't look that great. Can we really put you in here? Probably not. Now, if you ask me, the whole point of the 12-team playoff was for situations like this where an SEC team might not get in there this time and a team like SMU does. That is what I kind of assumed was their format. I never thought the 12-team playoff was the committee really wanting the 12 best teams. And to be quite frankly honest, if that was the case, Alabama would still not be in there. Simple as that. There's no way we're looking at their recent body of work last few games and we're all sitting here really saying Alabama can make a push to a national championship. That's just not true. It's just not. And we all have to be okay with that. I was impressed by how SMU played against Clemson. I was. I think their comeback, how you start to look at their body of work, it's like, okay, I can see it. I'm not also saying that SMU has a national championship team, right? But that was the whole point of the 12-team playoff, to get certain teams in there that naturally wouldn't get in there unless they were undefeated or some other circumstance. So as much as we want to sit here and be upset about this, it is what it is. Alabama's not in there because of Alabama. I don't think it's because of SMU and because of the committee. It is because of Alabama. When we go back to looking at the college football playoff bracket, I will say that there are some questionable conversations about the first round buys. I think that does need to be tweaked going forward. Now, when it comes to the auto bids for conference champs, I'm not against that. Some people are. I don't really understand why. I think there should be some type of reward when it comes to those championships like that. But I will say, it's interesting. It seems as though in this college football playoff bracket, there's like almost this weird sense that being ranked higher doesn't necessarily put you in a good position, which I wonder going forward, will that make teams not really shoot for the stars here? You know, you look at an Oregon who has that number 1 spot. That's not favorable, this path for them. I mean, I have Tennessee beating Ohio State, but Tennessee is a good team. So to have a Tennessee team then have to play Oregon and then having to see what that dynamic is going to be and then go to the semis and then go to the national championship, that is not a favorable route for Oregon whatsoever for a number 1 seed team. They're going to be a little bit more battered and tattered than the other teams on the other side of these brackets, right? Then you look at a team like a Penn State where it's like you get SMU. That's where it could get shaken up. Then that team goes to play Boise State. To me, those aren't favorable matchups for Boise State, who's ranked 3 and has a first round bye. Georgia really does have the best path. I know people don't want to accept that, but it is the truth. They have the best path. They are controlling their destiny because they could beat Notre Dame or Indiana. Then after that, they could beat SMU, Penn State, or Boise State if you ask me. But there is this conversation of, do wins really matter in this 12-team bracket? Because realistically, I don't think it makes that much sense to me that Clemson is ranked 12th, but they won the conference championship, and somehow SMU is ranked 11. That's where that gets a little questionable of like, what was the conversation? What was the thought process? I would think that if they won the conference championship, I would have gave Clemson 11, but that would have put them in a favorable bracket, most likely for their path to the national championship. So there is a little bit of bias here, as much as the committee doesn't want to admit it. That first half of this bracket, you could tell that there was some consequences for some games early in the season. Giving Clemson, Texas, not favorable for the first round after they just won a conference championship. Ohio State getting Tennessee, also not favorable. Then you start to talk about home field advantage here. Texas has a home game against Clemson. Ohio State has a home game. Penn State home game. Notre Dame home game, right? Those things in that favor of the first round can get real janky real fast, if you ask me, when you start to look at how it's really going to stack up. If you were to ask me if the committee got this completely right, I would say no, but they also didn't get it completely wrong. It's about 70%. I think it accomplished what they wanted. I think these are some pretty good value teams, with some teams that you can question in terms of strength of schedule and rankings and all of that. But for the most case, I think this accomplished what they wanted. If you ask me out of that first round who I have winning, I have Texas beating Clemson. I have Tennessee beating Ohio State. I do believe Penn State will beat SMU, but I do believe that what we saw from SMU is going to make that a very competitive game. And if you ask me out of Indiana and Notre Dame, I am going to take Notre Dame. Again, do I think Notre Dame or Indiana can beat Georgia? No. And that says a lot, because I don't think Georgia is very dominant. But like I said, they have the best path. They're not going to have to go up against really any real competition. Maybe necessarily not to the semis, or even if they were to get to the national championship. So I give them that edge over that. But I think what we are going to see is competitive football. I do believe there might be some blowouts. I mean, you can never rule that out. But I think the heart and the meat of these games in terms of quarters and semis is where you're going to see that play elevate. But those are some good first round games if you're looking at Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State, SMU, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame. I think the committee definitely made a conscious effort to want to get competitive games in that first round to kind of set the stage for the quarters and the semis. And I think they did exactly that.